I'm going to call the meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. Thanks everyone for joining the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting this night. We're back to evening meetings, and I appreciate everybody being flexible in the times as we've amended and adapted through the COVID world this year. And if you looked at the agenda, you know, it's a lot about just getting updates from different stakeholder groups that are looking to see their story on the Cochrane landscape. So having called the meeting to order, then I will call for an adoption of the agenda. Who would like to move that? Doug. So favor, show hands. Okay, looks like that was passed. We need to do an adoption of the previous minutes. I don't see Dawn on just yet, but anyhow, shout out to Dawn for hosting that. I appreciate it. You all clearly survived without me. But Leah's putting the motion on the floor to adopt the minutes, the previous meetings. Is any comments on that at all? No, good. Okay, all in favor? Okay, and that's passed. So then moving on to item 4A, old business. The first is the master plan update. Now, as everybody probably recalls, that there was the master plans for the ranch and for Midford Park that had been put on our work plan for this year. The COVID hit and the restructuring, and a lot of our workload for this year was put on hold. So that funding, as I understand it, is existing in the 2021 budget, but hasn't really advanced. And as you may see, Drew Hyman, our interim CAO, has joined our call tonight. And Drew, I'll just ask you to speak to that if you could.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to see everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. As Tara indicated, it's in the budget for 2021. We're looking to proceed with this work for Mitford and the Cochrane Ranch and doing the master plans in early 2021. Excited to do this. I'm actually going to help facilitate these plans, so looking forward to working with this group again. We worked together, for those who I haven't met. I met with this group, or worked with this group through the Horse Creek Sports Master Plan, which I think we're going to have to make some minor amendments, which I think will actually be a good thing too, with respect to that project, as Southland Transportation is not going to be in that northwest portion. So we were patient, and all is well there. So, but we do have to make some amendments there. But very much looking forward to working with this group. We'll get busy in early 2021, and certainly look forward to working with you, and then relying on Brad with some of his expertise. And then we'll have some consultants helping us out as well, and just look forward to some great outcomes for the community from a recreation perspective. I know you've got a wealth of knowledge on this committee. So Zoom audio not working. Can you guys not hear me, or is that just Lloyd?
No, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, you've got a wealth of knowledge on this committee, so look forward to leveraging that, and like I said, just coming out with some great outcomes for the community. So happy to answer any questions that you might have, Tara. I don't know if you're looking for a little bit more in terms of some input on that, but that would be my update. You're still muted.
Maybe that's why Lloyd.
We're gonna get t-shirts made that say "You're still muted." That's gonna be the 2020 phrase that everybody goes with.
I like it. Yeah, thanks for that. I have been advocating with the planning team that that work be earlier in their work plan, but we have to get through the budget and some other items before we can really determine that. What is in the budget for sure next year is the servicing of the site. So that is going to be happening next year for sure. And that'll give us then that next year to kind of work through the next details of the Horse Creek site and how we can advance that. And just into that, I had a meeting with Cochrane Minor Ball, I think it was, and different groups trying to advocate for how they can advance their position there. But it does have to wait. We have to go through the servicing and narrow down the plans and keep moving ahead with that. So, but thanks for the master plan update, Drew. I do appreciate it. Item J on the agenda, the establishment of the subcommittee. So
Sarah?
this, yes.
Sarah, Fiona, so I'm just going to interrupt. I was just trying to help Lloyd get onto his mic if he's having trouble hearing us all. I
Okay.
put a couple things in the chat there, Lloyd, that might help you problem solve to see if you can get that working for you so that you don't miss the meeting. Sorry, Tara, I just didn't mean to interrupt, but it's good to get him online here.
Thank you, Fiona. I appreciate that. Lloyd, give us a thumbs up if you can see the chat. Not yet.
He probably can't hear us, right?
Yeah, no, still not.
Oh, well, hopefully he'll see it eventually.
Yeah, I had messaged him as well. So, okay, we will advance and hopefully we can get that sorted. So item J was the establishment of the subcommittee. I think that's a follow-up from the last meeting when was that a subcommittee intent around the skiing, or what was the intent of that one?
What,
Anybody
are we talking cross-country skiing? Tara?
Well, in the old business, it was the establishment of a subcommittee that was advanced into the meeting. This meeting from last meeting, was that something that, it looks like that, in looking at the agenda, that's looked like that was?
Yes, from what I remember, it was because James, you weren't there, so we wanted to wait till you were in the meeting to add that one back in.
Okay, and Jim had reached out to me last week and actually request that we pull the cross-country discussion from the committee at this point. The timing's not quite right. Jim, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I have a real aspiration to see cross-country skiing in Cochrane, and I did have some ideas, but in terms of the potential area and the challenges of going into that area, I think probably the timing isn't right, and hence I'd like to delay it for a short while.
Okay, so we will we'll cancel the establishment of the subcommittee, and we will pull the cross-country skiing discussion from the agenda at this point. So then moving on to why we have so many guests tonight, 4B into the new business. As I indicated, over the last couple of months, I've had numerous groups that are looking to see their story, their activity, their vision on the Cochrane landscape. And I've asked them to come and present to this committee so that we understand their stories, what success looks like when we're looking ahead at the master plans. And so that's why we've invited Mike Cochrane to present, and CHAPS, and of course the Alberta 55+ Winter Games. So first up on the agenda is a presentation from CHAPS. They want to share their vision and kind of request for servicing on the ranch. And Scott Gradage, I think, is the executive director there. And everybody should have received their presentation. But Scott and team, if you want to step us through that, that would be great. I turn it over to you.
Thank you, Tara. I'm representing the Stockmans, not CHAPS. So Larry Want is here with CHAPS. Can you share the screen just so we've updated the presentation just a little bit if that works for you? If you can.
I can try and share. Just give me 1 sec. See if this works. That one? Is that you, Scott? Is that the right one?
Are you seeing it or not?
Yeah, I can see it.
Oh, you can?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. I will just get back into it then. 1 second here. All right. Thank you for letting us, you might have to walk it through here if you've got the outline. Okay, perfect. Thank you for letting Larry and I speak tonight. And our goal is to kind of share a little bit on the Cochrane Ranch and why it is quite different than any of Cochrane's other many parks. So if you look at the outline, our goal is to kind of enlighten you on the unique history of the ranch, its significance to Cochrane and Alberta, and to highlight kind of our two user groups that currently utilize the ranch among many others. And we'll conclude with kind of asking the community just to kind of take a moment to envision the next 139 years, as that's how many years it's been in shaping since it was first established as the Cochrane Ranch. So, do you want to go ahead or?
Sure. In 1881, Senator Matthew Cochrane, along with his son-in-law and business partners, leased 109,000 acres for a penny an acre. The headquarters of the ranch is just below the Men of Vision statue. Although the ranch is a great business example in what not to do, as it suffered many calamities in its short time, it holds the distinction of being the first large-scale cattle ranch in Canada. The ranch moved down to the Belly River area of southern Alberta after about 5 years on this site. The land since housed Cochrane first creamery, built in about 1910 along the banks of the Big Hill Springs Creek, and the Collings Brickyard, which has been extensively excavated the last couple of years, as well as the Davies Vine and Dairy Farm and the Gilbert Ranch. During the 1970s, due to the adversary of Clarence Copperthorne, who was a local rancher and MLA, the Cochrane Ranch land was purchased from Betty Lou and Newt Gilbert and was designated the Cochrane Ranch Provincial Historical Site. Now, Mr. Copperthorne was in failing health, but he flew in by helicopter to witness the unveiling of the Men of Vision statue in 1979, 2 weeks before he passed away. Now, after a decade of fundraising and construction, the Western Heritage Center opened up on July the 1st, 1996. This was a partnership of the Stockman's Memorial Foundation and the Canadian Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame. When this venture did not survive financially, the province arranged to sell the land and the building to the town of Cochrane for $1 on the condition that the town maintain a Western heritage component. In 2014, the Davies House, which is also known as the first hospital in Cochrane, was moved onto the Cochrane Ranch by Chaps as the site of the museum, and it holds the Westerson cabin built in the early 1900s with only an axe. Scott?
All right, the next slide. So as far as the Stockman's Memorial Foundation, I'll just give you a little history on our group and kind of, you can see on the slide there, the corrals that we've built and maintained. So the Stockman's was originally organized in 1980 by 50 founding members that were comprised of ranchers, farmers, and individuals wanting to commemorate the Canadian livestock industry. The catalyst was 154 banker boxes filled with canceled brand files that the government of Alberta didn't want to store anymore, but also didn't want destroyed. So we were formed as an active legislature, unlike many other groups that are societies. We have our own act, and we're also a registered charity. And our objective is to identify, honor, and remember the builders of the livestock industry and those who've made outstanding contributions with the livestock and cattle industry.
CHAPS, the Cochrane Historical and Archival Preservation Society, was formed in 1999. And our mission is to identify, preserve, protect, and educate the public about the historically significant properties and buildings in Cochrane. We are the only nonprofit, totally volunteer organization in Cochrane dedicated to conserving the history of Cochrane and the surrounding area. We were successful in purchasing and moving the Davies House for Cochrane's Hospital after 9 years of fundraising. Both of our organizations utilize the ranch to fulfill their mandates.
So in summary, we just kind of wanted to give you a little taste of the significance of the Cochrane Ranch, that although it's a beautiful piece of terrain and provides great opportunities for activities, it's also a great historical jewel that helps tell the story of Cochrane and its pioneering roots. Our hope is this provides the residents with kind of an emotional link to the past and a showcase for all of our visitors. So our ask was just to please consider this when planning the development, such as sewer and water, for the future of the park. And both CHAPS and the Stockman Memorial Foundation would be happy to assist as you plan for the future. We see the Cochrane Ranch as being a draw for both tourism and a tool to strengthen the local economy if it is properly maintained and enhanced.
Are there any questions we can answer?
I've got one question, guys. I may have missed previous meetings, but what are your threats? Are there any threats? What have you highlighted? Any threats?
When you say threats, you're meaning threats to the ranch or organizations, or?
Yeah, I mean, clearly you've got a fantastic presentation on, you know, the special area that the ranch is. But do you feel of any threats from development or other organisations probably stepping, you know, into your sort of territory? Because I don't know. I'm only asking because, you know, clearly you've got a fantastic presentation and it is a fantastic area. But do you feel there is any? I may have missed it on previous meetings, but is there any threat that you feel that probably is encroaching on the area?
So,
Go ahead, Tara.
yeah, so I don't think Scott and Larry are really presenting from a threat position. Certainly in my conversations for them, both organizations have long been advocates for keeping Cochrane's history alive and on that site. Both organizations want to kind of continue with that site, and there's been talk for a lot of years. There's been different advocates that want to put servicing on the site so that you could extend the tourism experience or sales or washrooms. So kind of that vision for the site. And so different members have been advocating for that servicing for a number of years. And in speaking with some of those individuals, really kind of felt that they lost their champions for that goal with some of the reorganizations and the changes in the administration. And so I think, if I understood what they were wanting to do, is they just wanted to make sure that this group, as we look ahead to planning the ranch, is aware of the vision that they have for it, to make sure that we're incorporating it as we're looking at the different, community pressures and desires and the different visions that different groups have on the landscape. So, Scott, Larry, is that kind of accurate for where you're at right now? And I'd probably also ask you to share some of your preliminary visions for the site.
From a CHAPS point of view, Tara, our vision is to maintain the museum, of course, and we have been in negotiating with the town of Cochrane to lease the Wescherson cabin and for storage and displays. It has no servicing to it or heat or anything like that, so that's restricted on when we can have that open and use it. If water and sewer were to come to the Cochrane Ranch, well then we believe the Gilbert House, the Wescherson cabin, and the Cochrane Museum would be serviced. And we're also always looking to see if there are any other buildings of historical nature in Cochrane that might be able to be moved to the ranch, in which case it would be serviced also.
Hey guys, Doug Martyr here. Just got a quick question for you. Is the impact of the 1A highway interchange and presumed highway widening that would go on with that, is that well understood what that impact looks like at this point in time? I think they're still in design, and that's what kind of makes me wonder a little bit.
Some type of entrance into that area. We're not too sure what's going to happen exactly with that. Would it be a right turn in and a right turn out? If there is going to be a road into the ranch at that existing site, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, and I saw that they were doing an HRA, historical resource assessment, this summer, and I'm assuming that was in the right-of-way portion?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Scott, did you want to add to that?
I was going to say, from the Stockman's point of view, I think we are always looking at ways to tell our story and further our mandate, and we can definitely do that using the Cochrane Ranch. It's a great tool and vehicle, and I think we just want to be in the conversation and to look at it through a lens of both a piece of history as well as a great recreation opportunity for people. So it's a little different than maybe an average park as far as what is all held there. And even with, you know, the new 1A22 interchange, I think that's a great opportunity, because realistically, once that's all done, there's going to be that much more traffic going past the ranch, and I think there's an opportunity there from an economic and tourism standpoint to capitalize on that if we do it correctly and plan for the future.
Okay, fair enough. Does anybody else have any questions for Scott and Larry?
I have one quick question. Would one of you guys mind repeating how many acres was in the original ranch development?
You mean the original Cochrane Ranch was 109,000 acres. You guys don't have that much to play with, but
yeah. Well, that's interesting though. Thank you.
It was actually 3 different leases to get around, because the maximum was 100,000 that they were supposed to get, but in-laws and business partners kind of grossed it up to 109,000.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's an interesting history, and of course it's what we named our community after, but I think it lasted 3 years of dying herds and a lot of lost money, and they moved it a long way south. So yeah, it's an interesting history once you actually look into it. Any further questions then? Again, the intent today was just to make sure that this committee kind of is aware of that historical lens when we're looking at it. So looks like everybody's good. So, all right, well, gentlemen, thank you very, oh, sorry, Brooke had a question.
I don't have a question, but I just want to thank you for your time. This is valuable information for someone like myself to have in my back pocket as we go through this planning process. So thanks for taking the time to give us a brief outline and kind of what things to look for.
Great. Yes, we appreciate the opportunity, and back when maybe you're not having your meetings visually and you're a little square box in a screen, we'd be happy, I'd be happy at least from the Stockman standpoint to host you for a meeting and kind of give you the tour so that you can see it and smell it and touch it and kind of get the real immersion into some of the great things that we do have here.
I think that's a great offer, Scott. So we're going to move on to the next presentations. I certainly invite you gentlemen to stay on the meeting if you like. And just, I think it's just valuable, I think, for more of us in the community to understand, all of the different, visions and people and energies going into our park. So if you have the time, I would certainly invite you to stay.
Thank you. Thanks, Tara.
Okay, so moving on then, and keying up, Ross Sterling is from is going to present a group that's making a lot of things happening. So Ross, welcome. And
thank you very much. Is it okay if I share my screen? Okay. And let me know if that is coming up okay for you.
Yep, you're good on my end.
Okay, great. So thanks very much. Thanks very much for having us out tonight. My name is Ross. I'm with Bike Cochrane Society. We're a relatively new group. We incorporated 2 years ago this October with the mission to develop a cycling-friendly culture in Cochrane through the implementation of safe infrastructure for transportation, recreation, and competition. And we see ourselves as a group that serves the community to try to build up the connection and ability to use our trails and cycling here in Cochrane. So our membership, we have about 140 active members. And I'm going to just run through a couple of our visions for the projects, things that we have done, the goals that we have for 2021, and just finish with our simple ask to the committee as well. And I'll try to go through this fairly quickly, and I'm happy to answer questions at any point in the discussion. So last year kicked off, this is just cut from an advertisement in the Cochrane Eagle, the vision for the year ahead proposed from Cochrane, with all of the major projects that were coming through. And our takeaway on that was that many of the upcoming development projects in Cochrane do an awful lot to improve the cycling connection and recreation here in our community. Big ones like the Horse Creek Sports Park that has an area allocated for mountain bike trails, but even just the connection that we get with pedestrian crossings and the recently opened bridge over the Bow. Our first major project was funding and development for the Launchpad Bike Park at the Quarry in Central Cochrane. This has been a really rewarding project for us. We started standing up in front of a group of people with this crayon drawing in the right-hand corner here and asking people to imagine that we could have a place to ride bikes that kids would come to, that the community would own and share. We raised $100,000 in cash and in-kind donations and built this park, and it opened this summer. And the overall engagement from the community and the daily use that the park had until the snow came was just really rewarding for us to see, and I think speaks to the vision that we have for the things that we want to build and contribute to town. Second project that we got going this year was direct engagement and stewardship within the parks. So we collaborated with the town of Cochrane and contributed a volunteer effort for remediation of some of the trails in the ranch house. And so this is Just below the grandfather tree, there was a drainage issue leading to some trail damage, and we contributed in shoveling and digging and putting in proper drainage and covering it over. So now if you walk down there now, the trail itself is in much better condition. And this is something that we are hoping to be able to continue in partnership with the town, is working on small projects where there's a really good defined scope of work and an improvement that's possible, and then contributing labor, tools, in some cases, if we need to, materials, to be able to improve the parks infrastructure that we have. So looking ahead, we've started to put a fair amount of effort into looking at how the town is connected and how rideable or bikeable the town of Cochrane is. And we sort of started with this question of, if we entered an address in Cochrane, what are the, from that house, what are the things that you could do on a bicycle? Can your kids ride to school from there? Can you go and do grocery shopping or commute to work? And we started working on some analysis of how the different pathways and streets lend themselves to transportation by bike. One of the big things that we sort of measure our success by is, with the handful of schools that we have and the broad number of neighborhoods, what neighborhoods and what schools are connected safely so the kids can ride their bikes to school. And this picture is taken from, I guess, year over year, our efforts to get to mark the start of school. And it's been a little bit of a different year. The kids are still riding their bikes to school. So I want to point just quickly at our 2021 objectives. And the first one is on the trails side. And our goal is to achieve the first officially recognized mountain bike trail in Cochrane. And there's a lot of ways that we can accomplish that. But the main part is the accomplishing the expression of permission and welcome, that so that it's quite clear that people can ride bikes on a particular trail in Cochrane. So if you go on any phone apps that have mountain biking information or cycling information on them, you can find trail networks that are supported here in Cochrane, and the Cochrane Ranch is actually one that shows up quite frequently. But what's not clear is which trails are, recommended and officially supported for people to ride bikes on, and which ones maybe we would prefer people are only walking on or using in a different way. And so we'd like to work with the Parks Committee and the town to see what we can do to create officially recognized trails in Cochrane. Our second is transportation. And this year we want to achieve a meaningful connection improvement by working with the town, committees, and community stakeholders. And this one can be big or small. It can be, every year can't have the level crossing at Horse Creek Road, which is a big significant connection improvement for people in the Heartland community. But even just 50 meters of an improved or safer connection can make such a difference to how much courage people have, or how willing they are to get out on a bike and move within Cochrane. And then third, our goal is to continue to grow and build our team so that we're capable of taking on bigger and bigger projects as we go. Just on the trails side, we see our recent past is the launch pad, and we'll be completing that this year and having an opening party we'd like to engage as much as we can in the ranch house development plan. So there's a real opportunity here, I think, for us to achieve biking opportunities within the ranch that everybody is happy about, whether they ride a bicycle or don't ride a bicycle. And it's also a great opportunity for us, since it's happening right now, for us to learn as a group how to participate in planning discussions. What are the ways that a town accomplishes a vision like the improvement and development of a park, leading to things like the Horse Creek Sports Park, which will be, excuse me, a much bigger development overall for the town and require significant planning and fundraising from the community. And we want to be a part of that. We look at the goals that the town of Cochrane has expressed for itself on master plans and see quite a few places where discussions of things like connectivity and communities where walking and cycling are safe and enjoyable, and the enhancement of livability and protecting the small town feel by reducing barriers to transportation. Those things are really well aligned with the things that we're passionate about and want to get involved in. And so we look at the transportation planning priorities that get published and have developed on or created on our side a group of people focused on identifying what the transportation planning priorities could be and which places we could focus on or contribute that might help us achieve that significant connection improvement that we're looking for this year. I just wanted to highlight that there's an awful lot of data available that we're working with, and as a resource could maybe provide some guidance on or leverage to help our conversations. People who ride bikes in our community, some of them are recording those with their bicycle computers or with their phones and sharing that data onto social platforms. One of them is Strava. And some of those companies make that aggregate data available in the form of community heat maps like this one, which shows where the majority of cycling activity is happening in Cochrane, and allows us to look at specific sections like this one on Glenbow Drive to look at when are the most frequent usage of trails and assets, what periods and seasons are we looking at, and what times of the week, to help us understand where are the opportunities for us to develop commuting, bike trails and bike pathways. So our ask to the committee is just a recognition that the upcoming park developments are a great opportunity for us. And we're hopeful that the cycling portions of the plans can be well executed. Our ask is to let us contribute, and for every plan that includes cycling considerations, can we ensure that Bike Cochrane has an opportunity to provide input before decisions and recommendations are made? And then our second ask is to challenge us to do a good job. We're relatively new at this. We want to do a good job. We feel like getting started here helps us serve a long-term vision and community and commitment to serving the community with a high standard. So that's all I had to introduce us. And I wanted to say thanks very much for having us. I really appreciate that, and curious if there's any questions right now.
Well, Ross, thank you very much for that excellent presentation. I was particularly enjoying your route maps and seeing how people are actually getting around. I've long been an advocate of connectivity, and it's long been a something that's important to this group. Last year, we advocated a number of trail gaps, and of course, some of those have been filled. But yeah, thank you for presenting a major importance of what this committee is about, is bringing the stakeholders to the table to make sure that we're being deliberate in how we as a community advance things, and to make sure that all the right stakeholders are involved at the right time. So anyway, so thank you. I did want to make sure that both Brad and Drew have a chance to ask questions or any comments, because I know you would have worked closely with Brad on the trail work. So, but
That's right.
Drew, did you have any comments? Sorry, I'm just going to take a call. Dawn's still trying to get in, so.
I don't have any specific questions. Obviously Ross, excited to see you guys, move forward, having worked with you guys in the past, and you're doing a lot of great things. I think the opportunity to work with you with the master plans for Mitford for the ranch, so you guys can provide your input, is really important. And then of course, Horse Creek Sports Park. I think there's lots of great opportunities. So I'm just excited to work with you.
Awesome. Really appreciate that, Drew. Thank you.
Yeah, hi Ross. I appreciate your presentation tonight. It's very informative, and I applaud you for the enthusiasm of your group. I don't really have any questions at the moment, but I'm sure we are going to find some time to work together in the future. So thank you for the information.
Likewise. Thanks, Brad. I hope that first project went well. We've been getting good comments on it from people walking through the park. I hope that you are as well. And definitely looking forward to continuing, while we're working on some of the bigger stuff, if we can just keep contributing and chipping away at the smaller ones, it'd be really rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say that project was a great success in that area.
Super. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
So then opening up to the group, questions, comments, besides how much you love the park and how I've embarrassed myself at 45 years old riding around the new skate park.
Nice.
Leah, did you have questions, comments?
I'm just really excited. I think it's fantastic. So yeah, thank you for sharing that information. And I guess I was just curious, I'm assuming do you have a website that sort of we can
yes,
look at?
we do. And I can send some information back. We are Bike Cochrane Society.ca. Sorry, I should know that a little bit better than I do. We'll have that, and then info@bikecochrane.ca.
Yeah, awesome. No, that's fantastic. Yeah, I'd love to stay informed on what you're up to and either help out or spread the word. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, Ross, Doug Marty here. I don't believe we've met, but I'm on the board of Glenbow Ranch Provincial Park Foundation as well.
Okay.
And I was senior manager with the City of Calgary. So one of the sort of things that I've been trying to focus on, particularly on some of the pathway and trail connections, has been connectivity to and from Cochrane. Is where you tie in, how you tie in. I spent a lot of money trying to get the connections from Calgary out through Haskayne Park and into Glenbow Ranch. And we are missing one connection on the east end of town to tie in that trail network, albeit it's not a very easy trail connection to make. Brad, I think, might want to weigh in on that one. But I was just wondering, that's one of the other things that is really, I think, important, given the popularity of cycling and, even just trekking with stuff like that, that those connections to and from are a critical element as well. I mean, you guys have done a great job. I just want to see we just keep moving forward on this.
I completely agree, Doug. I think there's an opportunity to have that trail that connects Cochrane and Calgary. If we can connect that for cycling, especially if we can connect it in a way that highlights, that gets people in and out in a pretty safe way, but I think there's hills in the valley. It's not that the topography is a little bit tricky. If we can make that
Yeah, it's
happen,
got some,
people will start planning their weekends around that. And
absolutely.
that's going to bring, I mean, one of the things that we talk about is imagine people coming and putting bikes in their cars and driving out to Cochrane to ride bikes there, right? That's part of, I think one of our measures of success will be when people choose to come to Cochrane and do their cycling recreation here because of what we've built. And
Yeah, and one of
that
the,
I think will have a lot of great add-on effect for the community.
yeah, I mean, that connection does have some difficult technical challenges. And I know we've been talking about it on the board of the foundation. But part of what, you know, I did in advance of retiring from the city, we built a number of fairly good sized parking lots that would serve as trailhead areas for people coming out, parking at, you know, those parking lots, experience Haskayne, with the goal of ultimately connecting, because the pathway through Glenbow Ranch is right at that western boundary of the city. We're just missing that tiny little piece on the east end of town here. So I think we're working on it from that.
Out there to ride out and see, you know, you can almost get to all the way to Calgary, and that's not going to take very much before it's there. So if we can get the connection in on our side, it'll start flowing.
Yeah, well, you know, we're working hard on our side too. So I think if we just keep our efforts focused, we can get there. I mean, it does have some challenges, as you know, but it's not insurmountable by any stretch. So, but good work. With that?
Have you ridden your bike up that hill yet?
Oh yeah.
There's some pretty good
slow ride.
So that's like insurmountable for me, if that's a metric.
I think that there's also an aspect of getting something started and then making something better as you go, right? I think I've seen plans that further out into the future, there might be more river level access from Cochrane. But if there's a way to get things started, why wait to the river level crossing if we can start getting people thinking about coming out and doing that tour or doing a loop and enjoying it.
Yeah, agreed. Great work, so.
Ross, I just have one quick question. Thank you very much for your presentation. I thought it was great. I think one of the powerful things that sort of sat out for me was your remediation projects, you know, giving back, because there is a lot of land grab with bikes, as we know, and, you know, that remediation project is just fantastic. You know, it just shows that you guys are thinking outside the box in terms of remediating areas that are the good and benefit for everyone. So good effort.
Thank you. I think one of the things that's really been important for us from the start is recognizing that you can't just ask for stuff, you have to build stuff. But also that not everybody that's going to enjoy an area is going to enjoy it exactly the same way. And so you have to approach these with a view that you're sharing something as well. And so if we're hoping that by showing a consistent commitment to improving things for everybody, that'll help have a conversation around what are the other things we can do for cycling in the area.
Agree.
I won't take up any more of your time. Thanks very much.
So Ross, I think maybe one or two more questions. Kelly, did you have a question?
I did. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yes, Kelly.
Excuse me. I'm going to try it. I don't know if it was my internet or yours, but you said you were mining pathway data using Strava. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And like, okay, sorry. Go ahead, please.
Sure. So Strava offers a service called Strava Metro, where they provide aggregated data that's been anonymized, but that you get to see the frequency and use of cycling, walking, and running in certain community areas. And so Bike Cochrane has access to that data for the Cochrane area.
Fantastic. Okay, sorry, I missed part of that, and I just wanted to be clear. That's excellent. That's a good way to get information. So thank you.
Excellent. Well, again, Ross, thanks for the great overview. And I think you can tell that connectivity and trails and the options to connect outside of our boundaries is something that we all get very excited about. If there's any other questions, kind of raise your hands now. If not, we can move on to the next presentation.
I do have.
Alexander, did you have anything?
I do. I just have one more question for Ross. I know you've been monitoring data about usage of the pathways through Strava. Is there any changes you'd like to see to the pathways that are most used, such as perhaps like a multimodal pathway system with separate uses for cyclists and runners, for example?
How much is my budget?
Yeah, we can all dream, eh?
Yeah, well, I think if people are hiking in the park or they're walking with their dog in the park, right? There's some places in the ranch house where we already have some trails that are beside some trails, and if we develop them so that some were preferential to walking and some for riding, I think it would be safer for everybody, and it might be more enjoyable. So that's one. I might look at some discussion for opportunities where there's some parts of our parks that nobody walks. They're steep, where there's areas that are kind of inaccessible. Those might be places where we could find and put a path through for cyclists that adds to the recreation value, but doesn't. It's almost invisible to everybody else because it isn't right out in front. It isn't taking anything away, and if it's built in a sustainable way, it won't be causing damage either. So that's something. There's some places where I think we would want to contribute some guidance or input at the planning stages, because some of the cycling infrastructure that exists in Cochrane, I think now, after you ride on it a little bit, there's opportunities to improve it or see, okay, if we'd known about that before we started, maybe it could have been a little bit better. Some of the trails here a little bit steep or a little bit too direct. Some of the bike lanes that we've got are really good at bringing you someplace, but then just stop a little bit shy of finishing that connection. There's a bike lane from downtown into Griffin Road that stops at a light that there's no way to push a button or do anything that lets you continue as a cyclist. You're kind of stuck. So there's a couple of places like that I think we could help out with.
Great, thank you.
All right. Well, yeah, thank you very much. Ross, again, I extend the invite to stay to our next presentation, which is about the potential for bringing the 55 plus games here, if I've got it correct. So we'll bring that one up next. Doug, are you ready?
We are.
Excellent.
Assuming that you're the good techies or Deanna is.
We're working on it.
Just as they're doing that, I'll say that we're going to excite you all by getting you to buy into the Geezer Games. Our group in brief tries to appeal to seniors from age 55 up to 101. I have on YouTube a 101-year-old lady from Hanna, Alberta that perennially has got the gold medal in the javelin. So that's something cute to see. I've got 24 slides here, so I'm going to go through very quickly. We being Alberta 55 plus, and I have with me Nancy Gibby, who's the secretary of one of the 8 zones. I'm past president of that same zone. It's called number 2, Big Country Senior Sports Society. So you can ignore all that stuff at the bottom. It just sort of tells who we are. We wear a lot of different hats, so thank you. We'll go to the second one. I don't need to tell you that the seniors population is growing, and it's a magnet in Cochrane for senior citizens. I've been here 15 years and probably know 300 or 400 seniors and involved with them in golf and curling and bocce and shuffleboard and Nancy and pool and snooker, lawn bowling. We happen to carry in Cochrane about 20 people that have not just provincial medals, but national medals, because there's also 55 plus Canadian games held every second year. So our ask to the mayor on October the 1st was to consider having the town host the next available provincial games, and that is the Winter Games of 2022, which is only 16 months away. So I'll ask for the next slide, please. Another one. Thank you. So for those of you that haven't or aren't aware, the Senior Center was totally revamped and moved in 2010. I believe Tara was on the council then and involved in getting us from a postage stamp in a former post office to a 5,000 square foot facility on the second floor of Spray Lakes between arena number 2 and number 3. So it's been very robust, of course, until COVID hit. Membership has jumped from 50 to 350 members. Next, please. The partners that we see include the town, FCSS, many volunteers, Seniors on the Ball, and Big Country Senior Sports Society. Sorry for all the abbreviations. The benefits, very obvious, but I think really important in the COVID world. There's more than just physical benefits. There's a lot of social connectivity, the intellectual for those that are into Scrabble and card games, mental health, spiritual health, which all combines to improve personal and community well-being. And on the bigger scale, of course, if you're active, you're probably going to lower health costs. You're going to contribute more to your community, whether it's your family or volunteering for the many activities that Cochrane is involved in. Next, please. So this represents our zone, and you see that that's a long, wide box, and it goes from BC to Alberta. And the next 2 slides will show you some of the key towns. Please. So on the north side, we go from Field, BC, which because it's isolated is part of the Alberta team, through Banff and Canmore, across Sundre, Olds, Three Hills, Oyen, over to the Saskatchewan border. And then the next one shows the south boundary, which is Longview to Black Diamond to High River and Okotoks, up to Gleason, and over to the Sask border again at Acadia Valley. So we happen to be, actually Airdrie is exactly in the middle of this area. There is a little Timbit called Calgary that gets its own zone for some reason. But this is our zone. So on the east side, we have Oyen and Hanna and Drumheller and Strathmore. On the north, we have directors out of Three Hills, Sundre, Olds, Didsbury, Carstairs. In the south, Okotoks and High River, Lake Louise, Banff, Canmore. Airdrie now has its own zone because of its rapid growth. And in our zone, number 7, which is West Central, that's from Balzac to Bearspaw to Cochrane to Bragg Creek to Springbank to Elbow Creek, Elbow Valley, right into the city border. So that's the area that Nancy and I and another chap from here that you may know, Nick Radamanovich, who runs a lot of the slow pitch, we're responsible for that area. And we've built that membership up from 3 people to 75 people locally. The whole zone is 400 members. We have 17 seniors clubs that are involved, including Seniors on the Bow here, Springbank's Heritage Club, Bearspaw Lifestyle Center, and there's also one at Bragg Creek that I think James is aware of. Next, please. This gives you an idea of the size of communities that have hosted our games. So you can see in the summer games, Airdrie, Fairview, very small. Fairview is a small town, but had 300 volunteers. Westlock, Barhead are also on the small side. Strathmore 5 years ago, Drumheller. Edmonton did a partial games. Edmonton has done very few games, and Calgary has done very few. Medicine Hat last year, and for 2021, the summer games are going to be up in Peace River. On the winter side, the right-hand column, Lethbridge has hosted twice. The others have been smaller communities, except for Calgary being involved once. So Grand Prairie and Cold Lake, small communities that did excellent jobs of hosting up to 1,000 participants. Thank you. Next. Here's just some pictures. The first one is floor curling. Go to the next one. Thank you, Deanna. This is our people winning bronze. That's Nancy's husband, Carl, in the front in the white shorts. Next, please. The little community of High River has hosted the Worlds in floor shuffleboard, and I was part of that team. We finished second in the men's. There were 18 countries. And again, it just shows what a smaller community can really do if they have a good volunteer base and good support from the town. Next, please. Last summer, Calgary hosted the Nationals, and Nancy and I and spouses have managed to win 2 to 3 medals each at the National Games in 2016 in Toronto and 2018 in St. John. If we were to have lawn bowling here, we'd have to go to one of the golf courses because it requires extremely good turf management, which you don't normally find in a town field. By the way, I don't know if it hits you guys or not, but we asked for 2 to 4 more bocce courts, and that went through the mayor, perhaps to your committee in the last couple of months. Next, please. Here's some of our locals playing pool at the senior center. You may recognize some of those scoundrels. Next. Here's Nancy at the High Prairie Games. She's pretty hard to cross. Next, please. Here's our team at the Calgary Games. 10 in that group are from Cochrane. So we've really worked hard since 2011 to increase our participation. We've got a lot of good people through the 30 sports, and you'll see the list here in a second. Next, please. So here's the events, and if Ross is still with us, you'll see on the right-hand column, cycling is down number 5. Instead of to be confirmed, I'm going to put in Ross Sterling there, I hope. These are the people that Nancy and I and others have recruited to be our key point people. They're either active participants, or they're officials, or they're just good-hearted volunteers. So that gives you an idea of the sports that we do. Athletics, bocce, bridge and cribbage, creative writing, curling, darts, floor curling, hockey, military whist, pickleball, Scrabble, slow pitch, table and floor shuffleboard, arts and crafts, bowling, carpet bowling, cribbage, euchre, cycling, bridge, golf, horseshoes, photography, snooker and 8-ball, skiing, swimming, and tennis. So there's something there for everybody. And I should state that a lot of our games, yeah, go ahead, thank you, Neil, are fun games as opposed to competitive games. For those of you that haven't met me, that's what my back looks like until I get playing games. Next, please. So we say they're for the short and the tall. Yes, I've been to the Calgary Zoo lately. Whether you wear stripes or leather, for those of you that can't tell, that's a hippopotamus on the right. Next, please. The vegetarians, I don't know if those pandas are still with us or not, but there's certainly a pretty awesome looking lion that's still kicking around. Next, please. And that's what we look like if we don't have any options to COVID. That guy doesn't look very healthy. Next, please. And here's what happens if you are involved in the sports. So how good it feels. You're either a flamingo or a peacock, And I think everybody feels good. This is our curling team. We won the provincial in 2012. This is our team that won in Cold Lake 12 months ago. Next, please. So I put in red, host community town of Cochrane. So our ask very simply is that you ask us questions, look upon it favorably, and move it up the chain. In our meeting with the mayor, he was hoping that this would be a line item in your next budget. We haven't heard anything on that yet. Our potential partners are Rocky-View County, Big Country Senior Sports Society, Cochrane and Area Seniors on the Bow, Spray Lakes Sawmill and Sports Center, Seniors Advisory Committee, and FCSS. And I have met all of those organizations within the last 2 months. So far, we've had nothing but positives, but of course, it's easier to get in principle. So I think I'll stop there. There's a couple more, but I want to make sure that we answer questions. Yeah, thank you, Deanna. You did a great job.
All right. Well, Doug, thanks for presenting. And sorry, remind me who you have with you?
Nancy Gibby. And Nancy and I wear a lot of similar hats. She is the board secretary for Alberta 55's Zone 2, which is called Big Country Senior Sports Society. I'm past president of that, and currently I'm the director for the Cochrane area as well as Canmore Bounds. And Nancy's vice chair of Seniors on the Bow this year.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us. Is there a way you guys can tilt your camera down a little bit? We're missing. Yeah, you either have to sit up or
You might have to stand up by that line.
There we go. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I know what, if I understand it correctly, and Doug clarify for me, what you want to advocate for the 55 plus Alberta Winter 22 games to be hosted in Alberta
By the town of Cochrane.
And ideally you'd like to get a recommendation.
We'd like the town to become the official host. And there's
this group to advance that is kind of what you're looking for?
Yes, in terms of your internal decision making, the mayor was to put us in front of the Economic Recovery and the Social Recovery Task Force. And that didn't happen for reasons that I don't know in October. So this in part is, I guess, a courtesy to you, but because we do not know the internal decision-making process, we wanted to have you aware, number one, and get you supportive, number two. We have met, as I say, we've emailed all councillors. We've met with Rocky-View County, with Spray Lakes Sports, with Seniors on the Bow, with the local MLA, Peter Guthrie, with the FCSS head and the Seniors Advisory Council. So those are the groups that we've just given information to. Our ask has not been financial. I mean, that's a decision that the town has to make. There is financial information that can be shared, but that's not our focus for this evening.
Okay. And now this group had actually looked at not specifically the 55 plus games, but had done some research work on potentially hosting winter and summer games. And I'm trying to remember, it was Lloyd and Don and Brooke, I think, were the committee that led that. That's correct, right?
James Darby was in there too.
And Jim was in there too. That's right.
In fact,
Yeah,
excuse me, I introduced James to Doug Campbell one day at the curling rink, so they're well versed in each other's qualities.
Tara, are you happy if I add something to this, Tara?
Yes, please do.
Yeah, I think, first of all, Doug, Nancy, thanks very much for that presentation. It's very informative. It gives me a real insight into the 55 plus games. I have extensive experience in the Alberta Winter and summer games, and also the Arctic Winter Games. So that was really useful to hear about the 55 plus games. I'm not sure if you're aware, but I presented to council about an Alberta Winter Games and Alberta Summer Games, and also an Alberta Masters Games. And we did a lot of work on the council, and we created a subcommittee of Lloyd and Brooke. I then presented a letter to the committee to say that with the current circumstances and with the other projects that were happening in the town, probably a Masters Games was something that, you know, might be something that Cochrane could host in the future. But I must admit, after listening to your presentation and the 55 plus games, I think we absolutely could support and provide that games with the will of the committee. I think it's fantastic. I think it's absolutely the right sort of games, the right timing with the current situation. We don't know what 2022 is going to look like, but I know the challenges of a Alberta Winter Games and Summer Games are significant, and also a Masters, which was held in Red Deer, I think last, is a significant undertaking. So it gets my full support, and you know, and thank you very much, guys, for your presentation. I thought it was great.
Thank you, James. Appreciate it.
So yeah, so I'm just trying to think of the next steps forward. So the question, Doug, what's the timeline that you're looking for kind of a commitment from the municipality?
Well, there's nothing chipped in stone. The process of seeking host committees is convoluted, and of course with COVID, it's made it extra difficult. So Sylvan Lake was actually in line to do the February 22 games, and they withdrew because of COVID concerns that they had. And of course, as James said, and as we all know, 16 months from now might be absolutely the best time, and it could be the worst of times. So we're not going to know for several months. But we could, as a town, apply to host summer games as well. But I believe, and you please correct me, Tara, that until Horse Creek is completed, we would be lacking in facilities. The great thing that we have, particularly with Spray Lakes, is it's the perfect venue for both being the host for the 800 players and their spouses and friends that may come to watch, as well as the hockey with 3 rinks plus the 4th up the hill and the 6 sheets of curling ice. So all of those things are great. With its 2 gymnasiums, the field house, you know, the badminton, the pickleball, bocce, just almost everything else could be held in there or within Seniors on the Bow, which is next door. And the bowling alley, obviously, we use the one in town. And the various hotels and bars have some pool tables that got dartboards. So I'm of the very positive opinion that we don't need new facilities. We're pretty much ready to go. Facility-wise, we're just one of the very best placed towns in province.
And then, so Doug, what if we were to start down the road of a cost-benefit analysis, which of course we're very sensitive to right now, as you know, the municipal budget was just presented to council and made available to the public on Monday, and it is difficult financial times is the understatement. So that was a high consideration. What what would be the cost to the municipality to host such an event, and what would potentially be the benefits? Broad scope, I know.
The president of Alberta 55 Plus and the president of the zone would be prepared, and they've, as recently as yesterday, said this to the mayor, to talk about the financial pro formas, if you will, that have been used by other towns. But 55 plus is totally volunteer. It's based on $30 memberships. So we'd certainly be looking to the town to make the thing happen and put the budgets together. What the town would get from the participants is in the range of $65 per head times, and maybe 500 players if it's COVID times, and maybe 800 or 900 if the COVID scare is in the past.
So those are kind of my preliminary questions. I'll turn over to the group. Any questions, comments from the group? Lloyd?
I think Jim covered it all as far as the history to this point, with Jim's input on that.
Okay. Who else has questions or comments?
I've got one here. You folks should have a bit of a ballpark cost figure based on your history with prior games in other communities. I'm surprised that we haven't really got a decent number to look at.
Neil, again, if your committee wants to see details, I know that the president and the two presidents could provide them. I'm trying to stick to the high ground here. I'll tell you that until 2016, the province put in as much as $500,000 per year towards these games. They subsidized transportation, they subsidized hotels. All of that has been swept away. So we as individual groups have only casino funding and half of that $30 membership with which to operate. So it's been quite a culture shock, if you can appreciate that we're going through, and now it's a new world where the athletes are expected to pick up 100% of the cost, whereas before it might have been 60%. You've got the core is up to 4 days. So Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening with registration, maybe initial games all day Friday, all day Saturday, and then the closing ceremonies, closing banquet, and then people leave probably as early as Sunday noon. So that's the core of it. So there's 2 to 3 nights of hotels, there's the meals, and the expectation of the athletes, the historic expectation is a banquet on the opening night, at least a bag lunch, if not more, on the closing ceremonies. Bag lunches each of the Friday and Saturday during the games. Those are the things that the host community usually provides. In terms of fundraising, besides corporate and town and municipal financing, there's the sale of shirts and hats and all that kind of stuff that is considered, where your tourism board and others would be involved.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I was just going to say a couple of things. I've been involved. I don't know if anyone else has been with the this Calgary and Mount Royal University Active City Collective, and just sort of following along with that. And so their goal is to really support and make a case for the active economy. And they are drafting up what they're calling the Playbook 2030. And I just did a review. It's going to be launched on December 3rd. So it should be public to share, but they basically did it's really thorough analysis of the current state of the active economy, not just sport and recreation, but like businesses that, that like cycling stores or recreation equipment and things like that. As well as, I'm trying to think of the diversity of it. There's like a huge amount, and they made the case for like the active economy, how many people participate, and then obviously all of the social and like benefits beyond just the financial aspects. So that's what always kills us with these games, right? Is if we just look at the dollars and cents, it's always a huge investment, but what does the community get back out of it? So obviously fiscally responsible is hugely important, but there's some great work being done to show some other real benefits to the community in a really tangible way, because I think that's a tough thing sometimes for people who aren't involved to really get their head around. So I'll definitely share that with the group. And I'm just sharing with you, Doug, on email that the one in the chat there, which is, it was the Edmonton Sport Council, I think, and Sport for Life that partnered to make a resource called some social legacies through hosting major games. And so it also gives some ideas around how can we build in. So if we do go ahead, how do we build in all of this, optimizing the social benefit to our community around that? And there's some really, really good stuff in there and some good processes. So I just wanted to bring those to everyone's attention because I think they're worth taking a look at.
Leah, I really appreciate that. You said it beautifully. I'm an economist, and as we both know, benefit costs you can make look any way you want. And quite frankly, most of the ones I've seen are extremely biased. So I'd really look forward to reviewing the material you're talking about.
Okay. Dawn, you had a question?
A question and a comment mostly. Over the past 40 years, and I agree with what Leah's saying in terms of the benefits, and I know that the recreation profession in particular has been trying to get the message out about the social benefits and the other so-called soft benefits that come out of sport and recreation across Canada. And it has been a real challenge. But I guess where I'm a little bit confused and sort of building on what Neil was asking is, what exactly are you looking for from the town of Cochrane? I need some clarity around that.
Well, obviously in a normal commercial world, Spray Lakes, let's just say every sport we held was at the Spray Lakes Family Sports Center. They have rents to cover. They have staff to provide. They have insurance kind of things. They've got the janitorial stuff. There's meals for 800 people. Daily, certainly at the minimum, Friday, Saturday, Sunday lunches. Access to transportation. Again, the mayor thought that between Colt and Southland, the town would be pretty well positioned to provide that. If you're going from the extreme of, well, say the two hockey rinks. So one is Cochrane High and the others are at Spray Lake. So you need to be able to transport those people back and forth. You know, those are the kind of things that are all involved with the 15 events. There's the hiring of officials, the tabulation of results. I think normally you would have very large volunteer committees. So in addition to the finance committee, there's the volunteer committee, the transportation committee, food and beverage committee, lodging, hotels committee, all those kind of things, even golfing.
Doug, let me just pull that all together. What you are asking the municipality though would be to pay for and host the games. And on the upside, we would have 800 plus people here in our community for a weekend investing and spending at the time. But the overall ask is that the municipality would pay for and host the event in 2022. Is that correct?
February of 2022.
Tara, I think what's important sort of to note is, having been involved in the committees of games, there will be an opportunity for the president or the chair of the games to present to council of the bigger picture financing, because that's key. Because, you know, and I think there's a number of those questions have been answered or asked already in terms of what is the figure. I think we all know that it's going to cost, and I think, like Doug has mentioned, the president or the chair of the games will be in a position to present that if the thumbs up come from Cochrane, you know, for them to say, yes, let's listen to the president of the games. My understanding, I'm not sure if that's right, Doug.
Yes, thank you, James.
So, yeah, so how is it October and I have a bug in my house? So I just want to get the sense of the group. you know, Doug's been advocating across the municipality and championing this cause. Wanted to make this group aware. Now, how we've usually done our work is the work usually gets directed to us from council. And then when we are looking at something on our work plan and we need to do a dive in, we usually create a subcommittee that gets tasked with it. So I'm not necessarily saying that we can just create that subcommittee tonight, but is there a broad enough interest from the committee to consider that work? Or what's our thoughts? Because Doug.
Yeah, Tara. So I've listened to everything, and I've had the opportunity in the past to look at some of these things, particularly when I was still working. There are a lot of considerations, and what I'm hearing is that the group would like the town to basically make the application, if you will, compete for the games, get the games, and run the games, and they'd provide support to the extent that they can. But I think that for anybody to make a considered decision at this point in time, there's lots of information out there on previous games that have occurred, lessons learned, those kind of things. But I will say, and not to how would I say this? Not to be negative about the perspective, because I think there are a lot of intangible benefits that come from this. But the reality is you will find very few that have come out of it with a break-even perspective. And so that it does mean, you know, for the town of Cochrane, that there will be, you will not recover, or the odds are you will not recover your revenue given the history. So I think there needs to be some discussions about lessons learned from others, just to get a better sense of the kind of commitment you're asking the town to make, going in with your eyes open. I don't think that's an unreasonable consideration. There is 19 months ahead of this. So I think some of that due diligence certainly could be done, you know, within the next couple of months. I think at least have a general sense of what it is you're actually saying yes to. Because right now it's sort of a, it's an idea without a lot of information to support it. I mean, I understand the need, and I understand the desire, but I think there are questions that need to be asked.
Yeah, and Doug, you're exactly right. How about this though, as a way forward? Because we're trying to map out, you know, the way forward. How do we have this discussion? Of course, neither this group nor council would say, let's proceed without having a realistic understanding of what the implications are. And I mean, this would be an event being held in economic downturns. I'm already starting to hear concerns about forecasted budgets 2 and 3 years out, and we still don't have an end in sight for COVID. So, you know, there are some fairly significant flags right off the top for me. But what I am going to suggest is that I could take this conversation back to council in the next council meeting and say that it was presented to our group, but that if council wants this to be preliminary looked at, to add this to our work plan and to direct this group to then do a deeper dive into the cost benefit analysis of such an activity. We have done an analysis, so we're kind of a couple steps ahead into hosting games already. But how does that feel like for a solution for the group? Neil?
I think it's absolutely right, Tara. And, you know, that's what we are, a recreation committee. And if we are not seen to be supporting any recreational initiative, and then, but just, you know, like Doug said, you know, is we go in with our eyes open and we have a look at because there's plenty of time, I still think, to ensure that whatever we put in front of council is going to be, you know, well looked at.
Yeah, so I think the first step would be for me to see if council wants us to, sorry, I just got an entertaining text. Yeah, I think the first step, I will work with council or check with council next council meeting to see if they want to give us the direction to do a deeper dive into this at this point. Who has a question? Dawn, you have a question. Somebody else did too.
No, Kelly actually has the question.
Kelly has a question. So Kelly, go ahead.
All right. Is everyone there?
Yep.
Okay. Right. It's actually a couple of questions, and I'm sorry it's a bit late. So, am I to understand correctly that Red Deer had already sort of secured the games for 2022?
Doug, a question for you. I thought.
And then
sorry,
and
the
then
question,
rescinded.
I didn't mention Red Deer. I'm sorry, I'm not catching.
Slavey Lake, Doug, I think it was.
So I think the question is, has the municipality kind of already, accepted the 22 games and then changed their mind?
You're talking about Sylvan Lake?
Or Sylvan Lake, excuse me. Yes.
Yes, that was in the June, July, August period.
Okay.
And then my understanding, and again, keep in mind, I'm not the president of the provincial body. I was a vice president south for 2 years in the mid 2010, 2012 to 13. So they go around throughout the province looking for potential host communities. And the package, and by the way, just for everybody else's familiarity, there were 14 pages of material sent to the mayor in July, and that includes some financials. But I personally don't want to get into that because it's not an apple comparison at all. Some of these towns are very small, some didn't do the whole game, some are big cities. So it is properly, as several of you have said, a session by itself to do your deep dive, do your proper due diligence on the size of Cochrane, the relative costs, the relative benefits that I think would be unique to Cochrane.
Sure. So sorry, a question for Drew as our interim CAO. Is that the process that I proposed of bringing it to council, either as council report and requesting direction, or what do you suggest would be the best way to?
Yeah, I would definitely suggest that. I can appreciate that it's a great opportunity, but I would agree with Doug and some of his perspective that he did share. There are some costs. We just prepared the budget, released it last night. It's a very challenging budget for us. Council's going to have their hands full in terms of going through this, and right now the outlook for us isn't fantastic. So I think we've got to be very cautious in terms of how we proceed with this. So I would recommend Councillor McFadden that we bring this back and get a little bit more direction from council once they have some sort of line of sight on the budget and kind of what the next 3 years look like.
Okay, does that work with the group? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Lloyd just has to be different. Okay, there you go. Sorry, Kelly, did you have an additional question?
I did, but it doesn't matter. I mean, my first question was leading into another question, but yeah, it's okay.
You're good?
Yep.
Right. Okay. Okay, so I think we can wrap this one up. Doug and Nancy, thank you very much for coming and presenting and speaking to us. Again, that is kind of the purpose of this group, is to allow us to have these conversations about what recreation and parks activities we want to have happen in town, and make sure that we're starting with some of the stakeholders at the table. So it's given me a little bit of work to do, and I imagine we'll continue this conversation one way or the other. So thank you for presenting it.
Thank you, and thank everybody else. Good luck with your work.
Excellent.
Thank you.
So that's the end of our presentations from different stakeholder groups. I invite, if those groups wanted to stay on for the rest of the meeting, It shouldn't be too terribly long, but you never know. Although I do have a long-standing and very proud tradition of wrapping these meetings up by 9 o'clock.
Especially when it's game 6 of the World Series.
Oh, that's that thing with sticks, right?
Here.
Okay.
Is that on tonight, Neil?
It's on right now, yeah. They're in the bottom of the 6th.
Oh, okay.
Oh, jeepers.
You only got 3 more innings to go, so.
Okay, I get it.
Tara, I just have a really quick question, not to drag this out anywhere. We can, and maybe I can get the information offline, but I just would like a bit more background on why the cross-country skiing was tabled. I think I missed something there. So you said the timing wasn't right, and I don't know if you can explain that, or.
I'll leave it to Jim to explain it, because Jim was the one who was advocating for it, and then he was the one who decided to pull it. So it's all to Jim.
Yeah, so I think for a number of years I've been sort of looking at the prospects or possibilities of a cross-country ski route in Cochrane, and it falls in line with an area which is green space. It doesn't belong to the town, so there's a few challenges in terms of pulling that together. And I don't mind saying now, and Tara knows, but I won't be on the next committee. I won't be sort of rejoining the next committee. So I don't want to table something and then just leave it and go away. So I think it's fair that we leave it to somebody else to maybe pick up if they want to. But I do think Cochrane would have a great cross-country ski route on a golf course somewhere in Cochrane.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. That's me.
Thank you.
Okay, so then we'll talk about the committee in a minute. So on to 4C council priorities. Number of big things going on on the council side of the equation right now. As you saw, budget was delivered to council last night for us to begin our review, with deliberations booked for November 16th, 17th, and 18th. This was described, I think, fairly accurately as a kind of a perfect storm. It's tough economic times, tough for the province, and decreasing revenue on our side, a growing community, so some increasing costs. And a lot of uncertainty around the COVID world. So we will vote on this budget, and then we also kind of forecast 3 years of budgets out. So the budget that staff have brought to us, and real kudos to them, they start the budget process early in the spring, trying to bring it in line with what the council's priorities are. They look at what they need. They bring forward the map of what they envision is necessary. Then they start kind of cutting from there. So the initial ask, and Drew can correct me if I was wrong, was I think about 12%, which is not an acceptable tax increase number. And so they went back, and so the number they've brought to council is under 2%.
It was 13.8%. And we came in at 1.27% for 2021. So they really tightened their pencils. The trick to remember in this budget, some of the things that I've looked at right off the top is, tax rates that low are not, it's not sustainable. You start falling behind. Now, of course, if there was ever a rainy day, this is the year, this is the time that it's a rainy day when you make, those allowances. But, forecasting that you are going to have to pay that bill sometime. So you're starting to see that recovery in the forecasted tax rates over the next 2 years. Anyhow, so that's, please though, as a group, engage with that, have a look at the budget. You have questions, reach out to me. I have yet to even start my deep dive, although staff was good enough to bring me a copy to my house. So being sick doesn't get you away from this.
Can I,
but so have a look at it.
I think
Um,
Doug's got a question.
yeah, Doug, go ahead.
Just a quick question. So I'm hearing lots of rumors that are more, I think they're more than rumors, that we have not even seen the extent of the future cuts 21, 22 and beyond coming down from the province. I know some of the stuff that I'm hearing through my previous connections sound fairly challenging. I don't know, Drew, is it, this is not the end of it. This is the beginning of it.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I would agree. And that's why, like, just to give some people some insight into the budget, understanding the desire and how challenging this year has been for so many people. The direction we received from council was to have a, low increase in terms of taxes. But we've done a great deal of work in terms of what the pattern since 2011 of taxes in Cochrane has been. And unfortunately, it's been low, very low, which benefits obviously residents, but there is a gap, and there's a significant gap that's been created. And then Doug's right. The province is going to be tightening their belt as well. So the funding that we would have historically gotten in the future is not going to be there. So whenever we deal with someone from the province, and we had Minister Allard for the bridge grand opening, but when we met with her the week before, the government talks about a financial reckoning, and they said it's coming. So Doug's right. This is just the start.
Yeah, so it's, and like hats off to our team. I mean, we had a restructuring that put us short benched, and then we went into COVID, and like hats off to Drew, who's led us for 8, 9, 10, probably seems like years, but he's done an excellent job of leading a very short bench team and getting us through COVID. Hats off to Brad as well. A lot of the how we save money this year was kind of on the parks and the maintenance front. We didn't fill a lot of those summer positions. Again, I haven't had a chance to dive into the budget just yet, but as I understand it, there's not going to be, with the restructuring, 3 positions were restructured with the idea they would be replaced with different personnel. As I understand it, that's not in the books either. So the municipality is, and the administrative team is, I think, having very realistic eyes on what the financial situation facing Cochrane is. We have scored a lot of recent, I think, wins on the infrastructure side. The province is willing to invest on, keeping things moving by investing in infrastructure. So the bridge was a good celebration, but that was a win more of growth than from provincial investment. They have indicated, we just had the win on the 1A work. So that type of work is going to be there. But yeah, they say that may you live in interesting times is a curse, but one way or the other, we're not going to be bored for a while. So hats off to our team. I think they've done a very good job of putting a tight budget in front of council, and then council's going to get into that and with some works on that. So I haven't had a chance to analyze it, so I can't really prepare that, but I ask that everybody have a look. It's up on the website. There's the Let's Talk Cochrane site, and let me know your priorities in advance of the budget. So that's, big news.
Sarah, if I can, sorry to interrupt, but can I just, we have the Facebook Live event on November 5th. So that is something that we would encourage people to attend as well. That's our traffic plan. So we'll have updates about the provincial funding and the direction in which that project. So we did get $3.5 million from the government, and we have a project that we're excited to share, and then we'll share more information about some of our transportation planning over the next 3 to 5 years. So sorry.
No, it was next on my list.
Okay,
but
sorry.
Thanks for keeping me honest, and thanks for having the date. No, I did have it, November 5th, and that is it. the traffic and infrastructure management has been a real focus of this council, and there's been a lot delivered there. The Jack Tennant Bridge, the Railway Avenue, kind of that first phase of dealing with Center Ave, and then the 1A work. But yeah, so I do invite everybody, if you can, to participate November 5th, log on to that Facebook event. You don't have to have Facebook to watch it, where we're going to be able to give it a good overview of the different projects that we're working on to advance that. So put that in your books. Again, hats off to the team. And for that, we have filled the GM of Infrastructure and Operational Services position. And so that is the general manager that Brad reports to. And that gentleman's name is, oh, please help me get it right. Azam Khan. Did I say that right this time, Drew?
You did.
Oh, good for me. I practiced. I've had a chance to meet with him. He comes to, what was it, 10, 20, he was 10 years in
Cold Lake.
Cold Lake. He's an engineer by trade. I've had a chance to meet with him once. What I really like about him is he seems very practical, and he's seen a lot of the projects that municipalities deal with. So really glad to have that position filled, and that skill set and that leadership brought to our municipal table. So that's a big win. And then council just today announced we've actually selected our new CAO, which is Mike Derricott, who's coming to us from
Edson.
I apologize, the dog's at the door, the cat's at the door, from Edson. So he filled a lot of the boxes that council was looking for in a new CAO. He's going to be a very busy individual when he joins us in January. And but hats off to Drew, who's led us as the interim CAO and filled lots of different roles for us. He's done an excellent job and got us through, and I can't say enough how much I respect the work he's done. One of the things that I am glad, though, is that we're going to be able to get Drew focused on planning more narrowly in January, which makes me happy. So, but so a lot of changes on the municipal side, and the team starting to coalesce for that last year of this council's workload. Yeah, so that's kind of it on the council priorities. I think I've hit everything there. We can talk about it now, as everybody knows that the bulk of the committee term ends at the end of this year. And so Jim's already said that he's not going to apply. And Jim, I'm sorry to hear that, but I understand we all only have so much time in the day to commit to our passions, and I appreciate the work that you brought to date.
Tara, yeah, can I just say thank you very much. The experience has been absolutely phenomenal, and I really do appreciate everybody's support. And the only reason I am leaving the committee is that, yeah, my workload is just about to go mad. So, you know, I don't think I'll be justifying the excellent committee that we have. So thank you to everybody. I really appreciate your support, Tara.
Excellent. Well, thanks so much. Anyhow, so for everyone else, I appreciate all the work you've done. If you haven't reapplied yet, I ask you to reapply. I beg you to reapply. So I think we've accomplished a lot, and I look forward to doing that again next year. Doug, question, comment?
Just to let you know, Tara, I won't be re-upping on the committee here again. Reasons are that, well, I had some new additions in our family with my son and his life. But I've also, I've got some business commitments that are emerging, but I'm also, as you know, or as some people know, I've been back in university for a little while right now, and I've got a fairly heavy course load coming up in the winter session. I'm working on a second degree. And once COVID's over, we had some travel plans that were kind of put on hold suddenly. And we're going to try to sort of pick up where we left off whenever we can pick up on that again. So in fairness to the committee, I'm, you know, my ability to commit would be somewhat challenged given everything else. So, I mean, I've been, a volunteer with the town on many, many different things over the years, and I will probably come back at some point. I just need to sort of restructure my commitments a little bit here.
Excellent. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. You certainly added, I certainly value your experience and perspective and knowledge. So that saddens me. But again, I do understand there needs to be a balance in life. So then, Lloyd?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, and I've enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed my colleagues on the committee, and I'll be out there watching. So
I know you have my number.
I do.
Lloyd?
Yes, I saw Karen's email about the term. Like she said, it's revisited on an annual basis now. A term, this group now has been together virtually for 3 years. Is that a term, or is it an annual? Is an annual 1 year a term?
No, I think. Now I'm embarrassed. A term is longer than a year, but I don't know if it's 2 or 3. So we can get some clarity and get back to you. We are going to be able to, because we started this committee together, what I think is great is we've had some additions. So we're going to be able to have some staggered experience with that, which I think is really going to be valuable. So I will get clarity on that and get back to you. And we'll make sure it's clear.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah.
Sarah,
wait, so that,
Sarah,
sorry.
I'm just looking at our membership list. I think term is 2 years from what I can see.
Okay. So, well, my term is only 1 year, and I got reappointed to the committee last night, so you're welcome. Or however you want to take that. Okay, so sorry, that got a little bit informal, but yeah, so it's kind of a review of the council priorities, quick chat about the committee, administration priorities. Drew, Brad, did you gentlemen have something that you wanted to share from that perspective?
Didn't have anything specific.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Tara. No, same here, nothing to report. As previously mentioned, we're working through the budget and waiting for the final results there so we can start our next year of operational planning. And from an operational point of view, of course, we're going into a new season, so we'll be looking at getting some ice in at the outdoor rink will be our next big task, and then keeping our pathways clean and safe.
Excellent. Okay, so then we'll move on to the committee priorities. As I kind of highlighted at the beginning, the work that we were focused on this year kind of got hijacked. But how does the group feel about committee priorities if we're mapping out what we wanted to do next? Just what's everybody's feedback on that? Silence. Okay, well, no worries if you're not ready, because we are going to have a lot on the workload in January. Sorry, Dawn?
Sorry, I was late getting on. I was technically challenged. In terms of what we've got on our work plan that's being deferred until next year, would that be further work on Horse Creek, the master plan at the ranch, and the master plan for Mitford? Is that?
Yeah,
yeah.
That's the work that I see in any one of those projects is fairly significant. And then if council asks us to do an analysis of the 55 plus, that would be more work as well. So, but overall, committee, how are we feeling? Has it been a good year? I guess I'll find out if nobody reapplies.
Hey, with COVID, I think we're all zoomed out. I can't know how many more Zoom meetings I can do.
All right, no, I'm done. Okay. All right, so then a final thought. So we've usually had a kind of a get together in December. We don't have a meeting in December. We usually have a kind of a social get together in December as a thank you and a Christmas event. I'll do some checking and see what's possible. But if it is possible to do an in-person COVID distance safe get together, is there an interest in that? Or would you just like me to send you Christmas cards? So Neil's up for it.
You
Good.
bet.
Excellent. So some thumbs up. Okay, good. Jim, you're quitting my committee. You don't get to come. Now I'll invite you. Okay. All right, Dawn?
So at our last meeting, we had a bit of a discussion about getting off of Zoom because, as Doug said, everybody is Zoom to the nth degree. We had said we would maybe look at possible venues where we could do proper social distancing and keep safe for the November meeting. And I'm wondering if anything happened with that.
Brad? Jana?
Yeah,
What?
hi, Don. Yeah, I did have that discussion with Christy, who is the manager at the ranch house. And her feeling is that our numbers are too high right now for her to commit a room to us. We do have some meeting rooms that are available, but they're smaller. I can circle back around with her, but her initial thought was that Zoom would be the way to go for October, obviously. And but I will circle back around with her. Maybe the Chinook dining room is an option. Her thoughts were that she wasn't ready for that. So.
Yeah, the only thing I'd say is we were on with Dr. Hinshaw yesterday, and the situation is rapidly changing. So the mandatory number of restrictions in Calgary and Edmonton, they are looking for the surrounding communities to follow suit. Again, we're not necessarily mandating it, but we have to be careful how many people are gathering. And they're having a lot of cases of people working together as well. That's where some of this transmission is happening because people aren't socially distancing in the workplace.
Yeah, we'll have to look at that reality. I know council was excited to get back to in-person meetings, and that lasted exactly 2 meetings. As people are probably aware, we were at the bridge celebration. The municipal minister turned out to have been diagnosed with COVID. As a result, anybody that was kind of in the informal meet and greet session has then had to get COVID tested. We all did, but everybody got COVID tested, and then anybody that was there is now in isolation for 14 days. So yeah, step back on the municipal side. So okay, yeah, so we're gonna probably have to keep that into consideration. I mean, I miss people as well, but it's the reality we're working through. So I think we're probably just gonna have to, I mean, I get we want to move back to in person, and I like it as well, but I think we need to play it by ear.
Yeah, I think it's changing so rapidly that, it's hard to predict, like, 2 weeks out, never mind 2 months out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, everybody's in the same decision matrix, I mean, I'm struggling with the same thing with some of the, projects I'm working on is, what are our options? And we're all looking at those options, and there's not a lot of really good ones, unfortunately. So I think we just all gotta kind of stay safe, and eventually we'll get through this. I mean, this will end at some point.
That is true. Sorry, Dawn?
So I'm sort of the same opinion. I'd rather keep it safe and continue on with Zoom. And I'm thinking maybe for our Christmas celebration, we push it till spring, and maybe Brad can find us a fire pit to sit around in the spring and celebrate all sorts of different things.
Yeah.
So
Hey, we can have a glass of wine on Zoom together.
so rather than investing time in checking out a Christmas function, I think we just got to stay safe.
Probably
Yeah,
wise.
I'm all for staying safe. Let's stay safe, please.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you very much for your time tonight. I really appreciate it. I think the next meeting we'll make sure that we have the Zoom information and the YouTube information kind of more clearly highlighted. I get where you're coming from. I usually need it emailed to me 3 times and about once 5 minutes before the meeting. So we'll pretend that we're all like me, and we'll do that. So thank you for your time. And I think And thank you, Don, for chairing last meeting. And I really appreciate when that happens. And we will get through to next year and we'll see what the new year brings. But I think there's a lot of exciting work for this committee. So. All right. If anybody has any last words, now's the time. If not, I'm going to declare that we have wrapped up at 9:03, and I apologize for being late.
Thanks, Sarah.
Bye, everybody.
All right. Have a great
Good
night.
night.
Bye.